Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Honoring Our Babies Safer Sleep Toolkit update webinar. We are honored to continue this work. This work is done because we know that when we lose someone dear to us, it is important that we acknowledge all they provided us while they were with us, including infants. For those of you who are in your early days in your learning journey towards understanding Indigenous worldviews and beliefs, here is a teaching that our elders have shared with us when it comes to our infants who have passed suddenly. Some Indigenous peoples acknowledge the infants who sadly journeyed into the spirit world and recognize them now as sharing knowledge, just as our elders do, because they have taught us so much in their untimely passing. We thank all those infants that are now in the spirit world and will do our very best to continue the teachings that they provided us to ensure safer sleep practices are shared and understood. We are grateful to those who are able to attend today and understand that there are many who wanted to, but simply could not. I would like to now welcome Auntie Lucy to uplift us in a good way with a prayer and our territory acknowledgement. Welcome back, Lucy.
Thank you, friends and relatives, and welcome to this amazing update and sharing of the Honoring Our Indigenous Babies Safer Sleep Toolkit. Many people provided input into this important tool to keep our sacred bundles safe so they may grow to be old as elders. My name is Flaxelwit, which is medicine woman, and this name was provided to me in a ceremony from Shane Point. My English name is Lucy Barney. Both my parents are Statlium. My father's toolkit from Lillooet, and my mom Nkwakwa from Darcy or Anderson Lake. I am a granddaughter, daughter, sister, mother, and auntie to many. Thank you, beautiful friends and relatives, for joining today. I am joining you from the ceded traditional territory of the Tsawwassen First Nation and the unceded territory of the Musqueam Nations, where I live and play, and grateful to be welcomed to this territory. I am here to bring words of welcome, thanks, and encouragement. I will share a teaching of our eagle feather, what the eagle represents to us in our communities is that life is a journey. On one side, the quills are shorter, and on the other side, the quills are wider. The wider side represents our positive aspects, our good journey in life, and the left side, the smaller quills, represent the not so good, but they are teachings that we still must learn from. For example, honoring the baby's safer sleep toolkit. We will learn and we will share and we'll keep journeying on so that our young ones can become old. This is our journey and we accept this, and we thank those babies that shared their knowledge with us. Thank you for being here to learn and share. This is such an important topic and sometimes a hard conversation to have with families. Thank you to your families for loaning you to us so that we may do this work in a good way. All my relations, thank you.
Thank you, Auntie Lucy. So first, it is with gratitude that we respectfully acknowledge the Honoring Our Babies Safer Sleep Toolkit was originally an initiative of the Tripartite First Nation and Aboriginal Maternal and Child Health Strategy. This toolkit was originally developed by the Aboriginal Safe Sleep Working Group, led by PSBC, whose membership included First Nation partners, federal and provincial government representatives, as well as content matter experts. We are also thankful to Auntie Lucy, our former provincial lead Indigenous Health, for all the hard work she did before retiring from PSBC. And Lucy, your devotion and determination to ensure healthcare providers are able to better care for Indigenous life givers is evident in all the teachings that you left behind. Kuchdown. So I know that we've acknowledged our territory. Thank you, Auntie Lucy. We'd also like to share our commitment to all people that we in PSBC uphold in our work and in our teachings. Throughout this document, the terms women, individuals, and breast chest feeding are used as gender-inclusive terms, embracing cisgender, transgender, gender non-binary, gender non-conforming, and two-spirit peoples. These are used to acknowledge that people who do not identify as women can also become pregnant and give birth and breast chest feed. Chest feeding is a term that is becoming more commonly seen and may be used by parents to describe their approach to feeding and nurturing their baby. Some parents may prefer using the term nursing or human milk feeding. Parent caregiver is also used to acknowledge the diversity of family structures and caregiving relationships. We would like to make a special mention that next week, March 20th, is Two-Spirit, Indigenous, LGBTQIA+ Awareness to Celebration Day. This day has been held since 2022, and this annual event recognizes and celebrates the diverse sexualities and gender expressions that exist within Indigenous communities. And I understand this might be coming a little late, but we'd like to introduce ourselves. So hello, my name is Jessie Minabariat, and I identify as a person of mixed ancestry. On my paternal side, I identify as settler, and on my maternal side, I identify as Métis. And I live, work, and play in the unceded occupied traditional territories of the Swaddling people. I am a mother to two and a wife, 2 sons and a wife to a Schlickstaus man, which is colonially known as Bonaparte. So very grateful to live, work, and play there. But today I'm actually on the unceded occupied traditional territories of the Syilx people. So again, much gratitude to be on these lands. And my role or title is Provincial Lead Indigenous Health with Perinatal Services BC. And I would like to hand off to Tony, my lovely partner with FNHA.
Yes, well, my English name is Tony Winterhoff. My home is Echlani. My home territory is Hacha, which is part of the Statlium Nation. I am lucky enough to live, work, and play in the unceded and traditional territory of the Stalo people, and also calling in today from the unceded, occupied, and traditional territories of the Syilx Nation. My role with FNHA is Healthy Children Specialist, where I get to support maternal child health work happening throughout the province in our communities. I am a very grateful mother to 3 wonderful children who definitely keep me motivated in this work. And may I please pass over our introductions to Lucy.
It gets over to me. Thank you, Tony. And thank you, Lucy, for starting us off in such a great way and for sharing your wisdom. My name is Leah Geiger. I'm the Provincial Clinical Coordinator for Maternal Infant Health. And it's with gratitude to be joining you all today to share the update resource. I am an uninvited guest on the unceded traditional and ancestral territories of the Squeptic Nation. I'm a second generation settler, and my family originates from Scotland and Switzerland. And I humbly thank the nations of where I reside. And today it's a beautiful Bluebird Day in Kamloops, and so I'm grateful for that. And I'm going to pass it over to Lisa.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Sutherland. I'm the Provincial Midwifery Lead at Perinatal Services BC. I'm an immigrant and a settler on the unceded ancestral territory of the Comox Nation, and very grateful to be here today to share with you the work we've been doing over the last year plus to update this important toolkit. We'll move on to the overview now and share with you just a high level of what we'll be going through today. We'll be describing the updates to the toolkit, including additions of new cards. We will explore the integration of the 4 R's framework for cross-cultural dialogue and the 6 key principles of cultural safety. And we will share the key principles of safer infant sleep practices. We'll start with some background and context, and please do take care as this portion of the presentation, the next couple slides, will discuss infant death. In April of 2019, the BC Coroner Service convened a death review panel with the purpose of reviewing unexpected infant death during sleep. And for the period of this 6-year review, 141 infants in BC died suddenly and unexpectedly during sleep. Key findings from the review panel were that infants continue to die under the same circumstances as identified in previous reviews. The deaths of infants were disproportionately among young families and those with risk factors, and sleep position combined with health issues may have increased the mortality risk for some infants. They also shared with us that Indigenous infants continue to be disproportionately impacted by sudden, unexpected infant death during sleep. When they looked at this subset of 141 infants who died of sudden, unexpected death during sleep, they found that 25% of those deaths were the result of accidental causes, such as falls from sleep surfaces and asphyxia. A further 25% were the result of natural disease, like infection and anomaly. And the remainder of the deaths were undetermined at the time of the report, and some still under investigation. And so what this summary table shows us is a table of the unsafe sleep practices that occurred related to those deaths. And so this list represents really those sleep-related risk factors that we can support families to address through our conversation, education, our communities, and our networks of support. And all of these unsafe sleep practices are covered in the toolkit. So following the coroner's report and their recommendations to provide strengthened safer sleep messaging with target messaging for vulnerable families, PSBC embarked on a journey to update all of our safer sleep resources, including the Honoring Our Babies toolkit in partnership with FNHA. The updated resource was informed by Indigenous family members, elders, and a variety of healthcare providers, birth workers, and doulas. We would also like to express our gratitude to the Tsawat Nation for welcoming us to host a focus group on their territory. And we'd like to express our deep gratitude for all of those who participated in that focus group. This toolkit incorporates a two-eyed seeing approach. And two-eyed seeing, as introduced by Mi'kmaq elder Albert Marshall, means, and I quote, to see from one eye with the strengths of Indigenous ways of knowing, to see from the other eye with the strengths of Western ways of knowing, and to use both of these eyes together. So two-eyed seeing emphasizes the importance of cultivating relationships built on mutual cultural respect. In addition, it embraces epidemiology as well as storytelling, which is a traditional Indigenous way of teaching and learning. This 2023 update will replace the 2017 version of the Facilitator's Guide and Toolkit. It aligns with PSBC's updated Safer Infant Sleep Practice resource that we completed in 2022 and shared with you at a webinar at that time. The toolkit has 21 cards, 4 of which are new, and we'll go through those today. And it includes the Facilitator's Guide, as mentioned. 5 real strong areas of focus for this update were: we focused on guidance on how to have those conversations in a really meaningful, culturally safe and strength-based way. We integrated conversation about normal newborn behavior. We updated breast chest feeding and bed sharing recommendations. We included swaddling recommendations, and we've added updated messaging around commercial sleep products and strengthened messaging around carriers and slings and wraps. And all of those updates we'll cover in this presentation. We also wanted to highlight that we shifted the style of the toolkit, and that was to align with Honoring Indigenous Women and Families Pregnancy Journeys, a practice resource to support improved perinatal care. In addition, we integrated Métis Nation BC artwork into the design. Some of the cards in the toolkit have been updated, both the image on the front as well as the text on the back. And we did that in order to respond to feedback we received from our partners and the focus group members, as well as to incorporate learnings from the Honoring Indigenous Women's and Families Pregnancy Journey resource. So the toolkit will look very much the same. It'll have the Facilitator's Guide when it's ready for print and you can order in with the package, and then the cards will be in a pocket in the back. And we hope that this design really helps to support your practice, that you can bring it with you, pull out cards, look at the images with families and have a conversation with them.
Thank you, Lisa. We've also included a key terms section in the updated resources. Many of you will be familiar with the key terms on the slide, but given the lack of definition agreement on many of the terms related to safer infant sleep, we thought it would be important to include a key term section. For the purpose of the webinar, I want to focus on a few key terms and share those definitions, starting with bed sharing and co-sleeping. Bed sharing is defined as parents or caregivers sleeping on the same adult sleep surface as their infants. We use this term throughout the resource. We also further elaborated that bed sharing in the context of safer sleep is distinct from sofa and or recliner sharing. Sleeping with an infant on a couch or recliner is not a safe sleep arrangement, as we know, and it's distinct from room sharing, where the infant is in the same room but on a different sleep surface. Co-sleeping, while this is a really commonly used term by healthcare providers and parents or caregivers, there is a lack of standardization in the literature on how to define this term. And in some cases, this term is used to describe sleep practices that are known to be unsafe. This lack of standardization may pose risk, and for that reason, we have not used this term in the resource. We've advised healthcare providers who are interacting with families using this term to ensure that they explore how the families define it so they can discuss safer sleep options together. Informed shared decision-making has been included. Additional emphasis has been woven throughout this resource and has been placed on how to engage conversations with Indigenous parents and caregivers on safer sleep options. It is the theme of one of our new cards, and Jesse's going to be discussing that in a little bit. I just want to let you know that I have a bit of a cold, and so I have scratchy throat. I might start to cough, so I'll have to put myself on pause, so I apologize for that. Sudden unexpected infant death during sleep, which is an umbrella term used by the BC Coroner Service, which refers to all unexpected infant deaths that occur during sleep as a result of undetermined causes, accidental causes, and natural causes. And as we are formally referred to as SIDS, and this throughout this resource, the term sleep-related infant death will be used. We have included SIDS in the definition for the purpose of this document. As I mentioned, the term sleep-related infant death will be replacing the terminology of SIDS. However, it has been included based on historical use. A little sneak peek at the updated cards. As Lisa mentioned, 4 new cards have been added to the pack. And in addition, there has been some updated images. There is a card index at the end of the facilitator guide, and you can use this as a quick reference. The slide gives you an idea of that format. The index highlights the card, the sleep situation, and the type of sleep theme. And there are some key resource links embedded into the cards. We've also removed from all cards the terms safe and unsafe. And these were recommendations from our focus group. In addition, a recommendation was to add an X when a card is demonstrating something very unsafe. We left cards with no X or a check, as some demonstrate a combo of safe, safer, and less safe practices. And we wanted to do this to allow it to open up a conversation instead of just telling parents that the card shows something bad or something good on it. So we've also put an X and a check on a couple of the cards where the images display an unsafe option next to a safe option. For the remainder of the presentation, we will be focusing on the broad updates and the 4 new cards. And I'm now going to hand it over to Jessie to get us started on those updates.
Thank you very much, Leah. So just the next slide, please, Shauna. So acknowledging the complexity. We understand and recognize that when we are engaging in conversations with families about these messages, sometimes it can be hard and even uncomfortable. One example we thought of was bed sharing. It's such a complex issue that may occur intentionally or unintentionally. And this is only one example of the complex conversations that we recognize care providers such as you engage in when helping families understand safer sleep practices and recommendations. We know that sometimes you are caring for people who have strong opinions about the messages being shared. Others may be triggered by what is being shared, while others may receive the message as well. We understand that there are many variations in values, beliefs, and experiences with infant sleep practices. We acknowledge there are variations in knowledge and familiarity with infant sleep research and in dominant perspectives of different disciplines. And our hope is that our practice support tools will enable you to come alongside families and to help shift their thinking around safer infant sleep. And it is also our hope that these resources support the work you already do in approaching families with a family-centered, trauma-informed, and culturally safe way. So our first new card is the framework for cross-cultural dialogue. And when we discuss safer sleep with our families, it is important to understand and accommodate the needs of Indigenous peoples. So some of you may recognize that these teachings come from the Honoring Indigenous Women's and Families Pregnancy Journeys. This resource helped providers understand many things, and in particular, it introduced a way to come alongside Indigenous peoples and engage with them using the 4 R's framework. This framework provides an understanding and a basis for change in how we speak with and establish a relationship with clients. The 4 R's are respect. We respect Indigenous peoples for who they are, their cultural knowledge, traditions, and core values, and they are recognized. Relevance is providing Indigenous peoples with information that is relevant to and respectful of their worldviews. Reciprocity is when knowledge is exchanged and navigated in the spirit of mutual understanding. And it looks like a conversation and seeking to understand where each other is coming from. And responsibility is enabling Indigenous peoples to exercise responsibility and agency over their health after you, their provider, has offered teachings. We've also included the 6 key practice principles to support culturally safe, humble, trauma-informed perinatal care. These principles are meant to guide healthcare providers as they work alongside their families. And these 6 principles are cultural safety and cultural humility, self-determination, trust through relationship, respect, anti-Indigenous racism, strength and resilience-based practice. These principles honor the resilience of Indigenous peoples, women's, and families, as well as the trauma, racism, and discrimination they have experienced and continue to experience. Applying these 6 principles can improve the experiences for Indigenous peoples receiving safer sleep messages from their care providers. And so I'd like to hand it over to Tony again for some words of wisdom on and things to be aware of when engaging with Indigenous peoples. Tony?
Our updated resource acknowledges that safer sleep for families may be impacted by many things in their lives. Sudden infant death during sleep can happen to any infant in any demographic. Safer sleep messaging is recommended to be introduced in a context that recognizes the impact of social determinants of health on infants' overall health. The updated resource reflects a shift from information giving to information exchange, using a personalized relationship building approach that recognizes information needs to be respectful and relevant and inclusive of the various social determinants of health that can impact decision-making. This shift represents an improvement in how our safer sleep discussion is implemented with all families, individuals, and those who are experiencing vulnerabilities. By holding space and consideration for social determinants of health, we're engaging in relational practice by meeting someone as who they are, their lived experiences, how they led to this moment in time, and where they're at. This also facilitates a more mindful health journey together by reminding us that social determinants are not static, they are evolving. One such social determinant of health is colonization and attempted assimilation. Aboriginal people have had multiple losses, which still have an effect on the health of our communities. The effect of these losses of land, culture, community, and spirituality have been seen and felt throughout the generations. The effects of these losses help us understand why Aboriginal babies may be exposed to more of the risk factors for sudden infant death. And that's a quote from First Nations Health Authority. Colonization was the removal of relationship from our interactions, policies, and even language to the detriment of all, not just Aboriginal people. Holding relationship as priority is the definition of decolonization. Every act of relational practice is an act of reconciliation and decolonization. We'd like to recognize an important document, Safer and Strong, that FNHA has gifted us with. This document focuses on health and wellness during the perinatal phase, from conception through childbirth, and also includes the postpartum period. It considers the well-being of infants and mothers who are biological mothers and those who play roles as mothers in their communities. Within Sacred and Strong, teachings around safer sleep were offered. And this is a quote: "Sudden, unexpected, and unexplained death of a baby under the age of 1. It is the most common cause of death in infants between the ages of 1 and 12 months of age, accounting for approximately 90% of deaths occurring before 6 months. Although the exact causes remain unknown and there is no way to predict which babies may die of sleep-related infant death, there are ways to protect against the risk of accidental sleep-related deaths. The single most important element to perinatal care and support is, again, relationship."
Thank you, Tony. Okay. Just take a moment to reflect. Sorry, thank you for that pause. Okay, so we have a updated new card, and the theme of this card is informed shared decision-making. It is important for the family provider to explore the risks and protective factors when discussing safer sleep options. Infant sleep conversations structured in an informed shared decision-making framework engages families to make decisions that take into account their knowledge, values, beliefs, along with evidence-based information. Having family members present is important as they provide knowledge and experience. And safer infant sleep is also a shared responsibility among family members and healthcare providers. So thank you for this time, and I'm going to hand it over to Lisa.
Great. So using the frameworks for conversation and relationship, including the 4 R's of cross-cultural dialogue, relational practice, and informed shared decision-making, there are key messages to share with families about safer sleep, and we call these the safer sleep principles. These messages are important, as Jessie said, to share with all family members and anyone who's going to be involved in caring for the baby, and to start sharing those messages early in their pregnancy journey and continue repeated messages throughout. We've organized these messages into 3 focused areas: sleep environment, sleep position, and sleep surface. In sleep environment, we speak to preventing overheating and aiming to provide baby with a smoke-free environment. In sleep position, we address how to safely place a baby down to sleep and how to carry a baby safely for naps. In sleep surface, we address topics like crib safety, alternative safe sleep surfaces, bed sharing, safer sleep practices, and avoidance of sleeping with a baby on a couch, sofa, or recliner. And we've also learned through our review and update process that sharing information with families about normal infant sleep and feeding behaviors is really important, as it helps them to prepare for the arrival of their baby. Having realistic expectations helps the family to normalize their experience and can reduce some of the stress and worry that can come with parenting a baby. For example, they may have been told that babies should sleep through the whole night, and this is biologically not normal. And these misleading messages can result in their normal baby sleep patterns being interpreted as a sleep problem and even a parenting failure. We have also learned that promoting well-being and mental health of parents and caregivers helps to support safer sleep practices for their babies. Parents who are well supported are better able to adapt to those normal sleep behaviors and are more likely to be able to incorporate safer sleep practices for every single sleep. The NESTS tool from the BC Women's Reproductive Mental Health Program is one well-being resource we included, but there are others, and you may already be using some in your practice today. One of them that we've also referenced is the wellness model provided by FNHA and shared in their breastfeeding wellness tips document. The emphasis is placed really on supporting parents and caregivers along with their families, bringing in the broader family, the broader community to nurture them during this time. And now Leah will share the next update.
Thanks, Lisa. We've also enhanced and updated the breast chest feeding card to align with the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine 2020 recommendations and the PSBC Safer Sleep Practice resource. The image has also been updated. The parent is holding their infant skin to skin and shows the parent in a more awake state. Our messaging has shifted and no longer presents bed sharing as a risk for all babies. Breast chest feeding is a protective factor for sudden unexpected infant death during sleep, regardless of the sleep arrangement. And to support conversation, I think it's really important for us to understand the why breastfeeding is protective. Breast chest feeding is a physiological act and it changes the nature of sleep, as we know. And this is a critical factor for safer sleep in the circumstances of bed sharing, likely due to the increased arousability and the attunement of the dyad. The nursing parent and their baby sleep cycles and cortisol levels are in sync as well. The protective factor also may be related to the position in which most nursing parents naturally sleep, in what is called the protective C or cuddle curl position. You might be familiar with that, in which they make a safe space for their baby to sleep with their bodies, preventive of suffocation and overheating, and also prevents the baby from slipping down under the covers. Breast chest fed babies also wake more frequently before 4 months, which is the time when research notes that the babies are at highest risk. Research has also found that after 4 months, night waking is the same frequency as formula-fed babies. And I think this is a really positive health message to share with your families, that infants' self-rousing and frequent night waking is protective. A little bit more about what the research says. In 2020, the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine released an article showing that the existing evidence does not support the conclusion that bed sharing among breast chest fed infants increases in the absence of known hazards. We have framed the messaging that bed sharing needs to take into account appropriate guidance, balancing risk minimization with supporting the breast chest feeding diet, given the long-term health outcomes for both the parent and child. Families are nursing longer, and so breast sleeping is a reality. Breast sleeping is a term that some of you might be familiar with. It is used to describe the interconnected relationship between the dyad and the sleeping among healthy term breast chest fed bed sharing infants. Discussion about the concept of breast sleeping with breastfeeding parents allows a way for us to discuss safer bed sharing practices while protecting, promoting, and supporting breast chest feeding relationship. Inviting families to share their experience is really important. It is, as Tony mentioned, all about establishing relationship and building trust. And that depends on us giving them a voice. To reflect the evidence and alignment with the PSBC Safer Sleep Practice resource, we updated the safety information for bed sharing and the image to show the protective C position that I just mentioned. Discussion points are included on how to discuss with parents the C position. The safety information on this table is recommended be shared in conjunction with the safer sleep principles that Lisa reviewed with you. One of the key aims of this harm reduction messaging is to avoid the unintended consequences from the universal messaging that parents and caregivers should not bed share. We know this is not realistic. We have also included messaging to emphasize that bed sharing in the context of safer sleep is distinct from sofa and or recliner sharing, and that confers the greatest risk. And I think you'll probably hear us say that several times, and I think that's a very important thing to share with your families. We have also included safety guidance around factors that significantly increase the bed sharing risk for healthy term breastfed infants. If parents or caregivers have one of these risk factors, it's recommended to suggest other sleep surface options and discuss how best to support families to reduce their risk. The recommendation is that if parents have never breast chest fed their infant, it's safer for their baby to sleep on their own sleep surface in the parent's room than to bed share. And I think it's really important for us to understand why. Bed sharing with formula feeding does not offer the same protection. Evidence has shown that families who feed formula are more likely to put their infant on a pillow or more likely to place them in a prone position. The sleep cycles may not be in sync. The dyad may be less arousable. All of these factors may increase risk. We do want to acknowledge a gap in the evidence on recommendations for mixed feeding. There's just not enough supportive evidence for us to have included information on mixed feeding in the resource. The most important thing is that we really want to ensure we are equipping our families with information to mitigate risk in the event that bed sharing occurs unintentionally. And the evidence shows us that that does happen, and also have risk factors that place them at further risk of sudden unexpected death during sleep. The next new card is on swaddling. And it's really starts a conversation about what do parents need to know about helping their baby sleep well and safely. The discussion points include content to reflect the current evidence that routine swaddling practice for sleep is not recommended in most circumstances. I just want to touch on a little bit of what the evidence highlights. And the risk was much greater when infants were swaddled and placed on their sides, nearly double, in fact, and even more when the infants were swaddled and on their stomachs. The risk was higher for older babies who were at least 6 months old. And our messaging has taken a targeted approach, different populations with an emphasis on harm reduction and shared decision-making. For example, we recommend not swaddling after 2 or 3 months or when the baby shows signs of rolling. The key messaging is that routine tight swaddling is an unsafe sleep practice that may increase the risk of overheating. It may also increase the risk of sudden unexpected infant death during sleep, chest infections, and the development or exacerbation of hip dysplasia. In addition, the resource has messaging around that swaddling may lead to less breastfeeding, which can be associated with greater weight loss, jaundice, and an overall delay in the establishment of breastfeeding. And we do recognize that some populations, such as the preterm and substance exposed newborns, may require swaddling as part of the developmentally appropriate care. However, it's really important that providers share with the family prior to discharge that it is recommended to be discontinued. And it's because of it's due to the increased association with a higher risk of sudden unexpected infant death during sleep in this population. Not swaddling for sleep is an important practice shift, and we recognize that. Healthcare providers play a really important role in implementing the risk minimization strategy by not modeling the swaddle. The practice recommendation is ideally best shared across the continuum of care, starting in the prenatal period. Healthcare providers are encouraged to have an open discussion with parents and caregivers about swaddling their infants to empower families to make informed decisions that really does meet their cultural preferences, values, and needs. And we do recognize that some families will still want to swaddle their babies to sleep for cultural or for other reasons. And within the new card, we offer the guidance on how to do that safely. For families who've made the informed decision, it's important to offer this guidance on how to practice safe swaddling or loose bundling, recognizing that this is just one part of how to support safer sleep. And another way is to ensure parents have access to the support in those critical early days when they are so sleep deprived. And Lisa has really mentioned that, and that's threaded throughout the importance of that anticipatory guidance conversation. A new card that we've also included in the pack is on sleep sacks. The sleep sack card provides safety information to guide conversation if parents are using a commercial sleep product. There's also information on weighted sleep sacks and weighted blankets, the recommendation not to use those, guiding and conversational points for that discussion. The key safety information included the importance of the sleep sack having a fitted neck, armholes, and no hood, and overall is the correct size for the baby. We've also included messaging that parents don't need to have a sleep sack for their baby to sleep well and safely. Sleep sacks, if fitted correctly, are a safe sleep alternative to swaddling. They reduce the risk of the bedclothes or blankets covering the baby's face. They may delay the baby rolling onto the tummy during sleep until the baby's past that age of peak risk. They promote back sleeping. They also promote healthy hip development, and they can keep the baby's temperature at a more constant level while sleeping. Lastly, we've also included some guidance and updated information for slings, wraps, and carriers and moss bags, as these are often used by parents and caregivers for daytime sleep. And so I'm going to pass it over to Lisa to discuss the new commercial product card.
Great. So we shared with you the new cards we've developed. And so here's a focus on an updated card about slings, carriers, and wraps. So based on feedback we received from the focus group attendees, we updated the image of this card. The previous card showed a doll unsafely positioned in a sling, and that is helpful to demonstrate unsafe positioning. However, the focus group asked that we shift the image to model safe and positive use of slings and carriers for daytime sleep. On the back of the card, we've updated some safety information about how to use slings, carriers, and wraps safely. Shauna, thank you. We've included the acronym TICS, which is a really quick, helpful way to help families learn about using slings, carriers, and wraps safely. And there are, of note, we just want to point out that there continues to be cards that you've maybe already used that address things like nap time when a baby falls asleep in a car seat, and what to do when the family arrives at their destination and they need a safe place for the baby to continue their nap. There continues to be cards around alternative sleep surfaces. What a mouthful, safe sleep surfaces. When a crib's not available for families, maybe they're traveling or visiting. And we have additional safety information on other commercial products that you can find in the Safer Infant Sleep Healthcare Provider resource. And I'll hand it back to Jessie.
Thanks, Lisa, and thanks, Leah. So implementation, I'd like to just take a pause, and there's a face on our screen, Shauna McNutt, and Shauna is a project coordinator with Perinatal Services BC. And Shauna has been incredibly instrumental with all of this implementation work. Without her, this work wouldn't have been realized. Shauna can be quite modest, so I needed to say that. So with our implementation, we had a communication campaign throughout the week, which included social media messaging, which aligned with the Public Health Agency of Canada's Safer Sleep campaign that happened concurrently this week. Throughout the implementation of this campaign, we offered this webinar today, which will be recorded. There were social media toolkits, posts, and graphics for promotional communication with various partners. The PSBC website will be updated. And we also offered a short summary of the changes to this toolkit. And we'll also be offering additional print run of the updated toolkit. For requests for printed copies, just look to the PSBC site and you'll see a link to the general inbox for the emails. And so what we'd really like for everybody to take away is that, next slide, please, Shauna. We all play a vital role. We know we've offered you a lot of information today, and we understand and know that it takes a community to care for a baby safely. We're hopeful that the information we've shared is added to your toolbox of wisdom and experience. And we're hopeful that it helps everyone to realize that we all play a vital role in learning about safer sleep when it comes to our babies. And this will conclude our formal presentation piece, but I'd really like to just take a pause and ask Auntie Lucy if you'd like to offer us any reflections. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I'm so excited about the updated Safer Sleep Toolkit. When Lisa was saying safe sleep surfaces, say that fast 3 times. Good things take time, and we know this has been on the agenda for some time. And thank you to the focus group that came and shared your knowledge with the group. We really appreciate that. Cookship for all the good work that has gone into this amazing update and ensuring that there's cross-cultural dialogue and that the 6 key practice principles are to be utilized. You can hear my dog moaning because I'm on Zoom and he thinks he should be here too. These conversations are really important to occur safely, to keep our sacred bundles safe. These tools are gifts for all to use. It's important for everyone to understand social determinants of health so that people understand that this cross-cultural dialogue is so important, and to understand our families. When we share decision-making with our families, this empowers our perinatal community, our perinatal families. Empowering our people is so important because they haven't been empowered for a few generations. It is our responsibility to ensure that our life givers are safe and that our new bundles, sacred bundles, are safe as well. We are all responsible for 7 generations ahead of us. And when we do this good work together, we know that in 7 generations, you and I will be called the ancestors, Cooksjum. I just wanted to share one more thing. We know that science is important. Doing research is important so that we learn from science, and also that our cultural practices are important because it kept us strong for generations. There's an opportunity for one of you or many of you keeners out there to do a study on why swaddling was so important and the baby boards that were used and how they kept our babies safe and the meaning behind them. Thank you very much, everyone. Over to you.
So thank you again, everyone. And we've got about 13 minutes left to navigate some questions. We might not be able to answer them all today, but we'll open that up and we welcome questions.
We're also very happy to take reflections. And if you'd like to share any of your reflections or early thoughts about what we've presented, we would welcome that as well. Just to add on to our implementation process, if that's okay, Jessie, was just to let you know that we will be updating the parent-facing resource that was under the ministry. It came over to us with PSBC and Child Health BC updating the parent-facing products, and that process will be underway in the next few months. And so that parent-facing resource will align with the suite of PSBC Safe for Sleep resources as well. Just thought I'd share that.
So I'm just looking at the questions, and I see that we've had some expressions of gratitude. So you're very welcome. And I do see a question. You mentioned that there was not enough info on impact of mixed feeding. What about the exclusive pumpers and giving human milk via an alternate method, for example, bottles? Leah, may I hand that over to you first?
Well, first of all, hello to my lovely colleague who's, I think Carol Dick is calling in from Manitoba, I believe, formerly from BC. And so thanks, Carol, for that comment. And thank you for joining us today. You're right. And there isn't the evidence around the exclusively fed infant with human milk through bottles. Because it's some of the different mechanisms related to direct breastfeeding. So it's a very good question, and we do need more evidence on that before we could give that recommendation. But I suspect, though, the human milk component provides the protection. I think it's the mechanism of how we give the human milk is the other part that we don't have that evidence on, I don't believe, unless somebody else has that information. Thanks, Carol.
So just seeing, I see a lot of gratitude. So we're very grateful this is resonating with you, and we're so glad that it will help the practice you already do. Yeah, just an overwhelming positive I see in the questions. Yeah, so I'm not sure, it's 12:50. If I don't, oh, I do see a hand up, and I'll just, I'll mute, and I'm not sure how to unmute. Maybe Shauna, if you could help with that, that would be great. Anne Marie has their hand up.
Yeah, Anne-Marie, I have unmuted you there. So you just have to unmute your own mic and you should be able to talk.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this information. I think it's so important. In my practice as a public health nurse, sometimes I recommend, because I mean, people have one bed, you know, and it might not be their bed sharing, and it might not be the firmest bed. So I tell them they can just take a little bit of cardboard and put it, you know, underneath the surface that the child is sleeping, you know, under the sheets. And I'm just wondering, what's your thoughts around that? And also, a lot of people are using kind of those cushiony little round surface that they put on their bed, and there's a little cushion around so that they lay the baby on the bed like that. And there's so much commercial kind of device out there. So I'm just, yeah, what's your thoughts?
Thanks so much for that question. It is so challenging with all the commercial products for us to comment on each one specifically, but overall, we hope you apply all the principles that we've provided. So that you mentioned that firm, flat surface is so important. So I'll speak to, you know, putting cardboard or something underneath the mattress, and that could be a possibility as long as those other principles are applied. There's no loose blankets, it's a firm, flat surface, but what it might not address is the soft mattress, where it creates that divot between the adult body and the baby can get kind of stuck in there, leading to a higher risk of asphyxia. So please do consider that when you're having that conversation with families about making any adjustments to a sleep surface. We're really looking for a firm, flat surface free of stuff and no heavy blankets. And then the positioners as well, I would say there is no safety evidence around using them. So at this time, we'd have to recommend against using them. It's probably similar principles to the firm, flat surface free of stuff. We don't want bumpers, pads on cribs, or material close to the baby's face. Babies don't have the ability, although they will try to adjust their body positioning if they do come across soft or loose materials, they aren't always able to successfully do so. So at this time, we would advise families against those. Anything else to add on that, Leah or Jesse, or no? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for that question.
I see someone also has just asked, will we be sharing the slides? What we usually do is we'll have the recording on the website. So I just shared the link to the web page in the chat, and the recording we will have on there in the coming days to view. That's usually how we share our slides.
Please do follow us on our Twitter account. PHSA also has some social media posts, and I also want to thank those health authorities that have been amplifying our social media messages and using our social media campaign tool. It's really with a lot of gratitude that you have done that. So thank you.
And I think Paula had her hand up.
Yeah, just wanting to clarify my question about the slides. Everything you've put forward here is really great to share at our sites. As an educator in interior health and broadly, I use other means to communicate, sometimes email, newsletter, huddles, taking small tidbits. And some of the slides were really just great snapshots of some pieces that could be shared over time. So that's why I was wondering if the slides would be available. So maybe hopefully a consideration for you to also share those with us educators. Thank you. Sometimes staff can listen to the webinar, so.
Yeah, no, Paula, so any individual requests for the slides, by all means, if you email us, and yeah, we can work something out. We just don't share them like openly on the website, but definitely email us.
Thank you.
Paula, that's really great feedback for us to receive. As you know, we really want to try to make these presentations useful, and different blended approaches to enhance knowledge translation is really great feedback for us. So thanks, Paula, and nice to have you on the webinar.
What
Thanks,
we've
Paula.
also said, sorry, I'll just jump in. We've said in the past about people using some of our tables or slides is that please do let us know if you're using them. Just send us a quick email. Shauna keeps a bit of a log so we can follow up. And also please use them in the context of providing the main resources as well. So we worry about information being provided out of context because no single one of those messages stands alone, as I'm sure you understand fully. So please do share that with the links. Thank you.
I see there are a few questions that are popping up. So there was one that I'd like to just address from, it's out of order, but I will address it quickly. It's from Kaylee York, and it's with regards to provision of, or thinking of any videos in the future with regards to examples on having a family-centered, trauma-informed, culturally safe approach. And I'm thinking the 4 R's, and it is top of mind. I've been within the role for 6 months, so I have lots of ideas percolating and just, you know, learning the landscape. But as some may know on the call, I came from public health, and I can totally appreciate that, you know, examples really resonate with people and experiential. So I've regarded that, or I see that it's something to consider. I see my friend Tony on the call, so, you know, lots of great suggestions. Lisa and Leah, may I continue to a couple of the other questions? I see where our sand is trickling through the hourglass here. I see that there's a question, is there going to be another Safe Sleep Box project program available? I can't speak to that. I'm seeing Leah as a no. And Lisa, do you know, are you aware of any Sleep Box project programs available? No? Okay. So the answer for now is no, but if we learn, we'll circle back. And I see that somebody else has asked, cardboard box, dresser drawer are safe, though they have a firm raised side. How is this different from bumper pads? Bumper pads, sometimes there's loose strings, or they can be broken down, and they can become loose, and they can obstruct the baby's airway. So bumper pads can be really dangerous. An infant can stick their arm and to get caught. So the hazards associated with a bumper pad are just a little different because they are a loose object in comparison to the side of a box or the side of a dresser drawer. Lisa or Leah, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's perfect, Jessie. I think the only thing I'd add is that soft, squishy material then does increase the risk of a baby's face getting pressed there and an accidental risk of asphyxia or suffocation. So that is the difference. So thanks for raising that question.
Thanks, Carrie. Okay, we just have a minute. We know that many of you have braked for your lunch, and we do appreciate that so very, very much. If there are any further questions, please do email us or send the PSBC inbox, and the question will navigate to us. I would like to ask Tony, do you have any closing words as a guest with us today?
The only thing that I wish to express is my gratitude for the work that's gone into the cards and how beautifully they present. It really is something to see it live. I've seen pieces of this multiple times, and I was still moved today.
It's so nice to hear, Tony, because Tony was part of our focus group, and so it's really great to have that feedback. And we're so grateful that you joined and partnered with us today, Tony.
Okay, thanks, friends. Keep doing the good work you do.